I have several different Hyfin chest seals here that are different ages and have been sitting in different environments for the last year or two. We're gonna open up and apply all of these to a dummy and see if there's any difference in the age of the Hyfin seals and the cold or hot temperatures in which they've been stored. Today we're taking a look at some Hyfin vintage chest seals. So I have several of these that are either brand new, a year old, 2 years old. I've got some that have been stuck inside first aid kits. I've got some that have sat in the car for the last couple years. And so we're gonna take a look at the difference between these. We're gonna apply them to a dummy, see if they're still sticky, see if they hold shape, see if they've been deformed from years of sitting inside a hot vehicle. So we're gonna break these down by date, by environment they've been stored in, and hopefully give some answers to some questions that people have asked about how long you can keep these chest seals in a first aid kit, if you can keep them in a hot car, if you can use them when they're hot, that type of thing. So hopefully this will gain a little bit of clarity as to when you need to swap out your chest seals in your kit. Before we get into testing though, let me talk just a minute about what a chest seal is. So a chest seal is a occlusive dressing. It is a piece of plastic that does not allow air to pass through it. And this is used for a sucking chest wound. If we have a penetrating trauma to the outside of our chest, our lung will then collapse because there's not that vacuum to help hold that lung open. Once we have that collapsed lung, it's detrimental to that patient. So we have to put some form of dressing over that to allow that lung to reinflate when that person breathes. Now another problem though is if we have a deflated lung and we cover that hole up, we could also be doing worse damage in some cases by now trapping air inside the chest and not allowing some of that trapped air to escape as that lung starts to reinflate. So what we want is an occlusive dressing that can be vented. So that's why here I have the Hyfin vented chest seal. This is the compact version, so it's just a little bit smaller than the full-size version. But this is vented, so you can throw it on that wound. It self-vents. When they take a deep breath in, it sucks to the chest. When they take a breath out, it vents through some ports that are on here, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. But this allows for air to move outside the chest, but not come back into the chest. So these Hyfin vented chest seals are one of two options that we sell for chest seals on our website at 6ecosystems.com. We have the compact and we have the full size, and since the price is about the same for a vented versus a non-vented, you have a little bit more options with the vented. So rather than carrying both and having to know which one to use when, just carry the vented and then use those for any penetrating trauma to the chest. Now the question comes up, how long will these last in my kit? Well, there is an expiration date on here. Manufacturer's date for this one is 4/4 of 22. And these are good for roughly 5 years, so the expiration date on this is 6/30 of 27. So these do need to be swapped out after about 5 years, but if these sit in the hot car for that entire 5 years, or in a hot car and then a cold car and back and forth, if you keep this in your vehicle kit, is this going to be okay for you to use getting close to the end of that 5 years? Now, unfortunately, I don't have any of these that are 5 years or past for us to be able to test, but I have some that I have worn regularly in my ankle kit for the last 2 years. I've got some that have been in vehicle kits wadded up for the last 2 years as well. So those ones in the vehicle have sat in hot Tennessee summers. They've also sat in the vehicle when it's been cold outside. And today we have some that we are going to heat up to see if that heat affects them if they're hot when they're being applied. Let me open one of these up and show you what it looks like inside, and then we will head out and we will slap some of these on the dummy and see how they perform. All right, so let's get this one open. We've got these easy pull tabs on either side. Grab from one of them, rip it open, and we have access inside. Once we get the chest seal out, again, this is a brand new one that was just manufactured 6 months ago. So this is one of the newer ones that I've got sitting here in the shop. I'm gonna open this up. We've got a 4x4 gauze in here. This is to wipe sweat or blood off the chest, so we have a better chance of this sticking to the chest. Now you'll notice here we have our 3 vents. These vents allow the air to escape, but when you take that breath in, this plastic in the middle will suck to the chest. And then we also have these 3 sections of this sticky goo that's on here that allows it to stick to the chest. These still stick pretty well even if the patient is sweaty or has some moisture on them, but you do want to try to get as much of that off with the 4x4 beforehand. So among our test subjects today, we are going to apply a brand new, out of the package, has been sitting inside, controlled climate the entire time. We're going to apply that first to see how well it goes on, how sticky it is, what it looks like, and just kind of use that as our starting ground and then compare everything else to that. So that's our brand new one we'll be using. Next up, we have one that's a little over a year old, about a year and a half old now. This was manufactured in May 27th of 21. This has been in a vehicle first aid kit. So it has endured last winter and then all through this past summer inside a hot vehicle. And now it is 45 degrees outside, so definitely not hot now, but it has been sitting in a hot car all summer. So that one's a little bit over, about a year and a half old. Next up, we have one from 2 years ago. So the rest of these are actually from 2 years ago. This one has been sitting in our training box. This is some older ones that we use for some classes. So this has been basically in a controlled environment, has not been opened, but its manufacture date is December 9th of 2020. So just under, that's gonna be 23 months. So we're right at 23 months or just a little over 23 months now on this one. So this next one is also the same date of December 9th of 2020. So just under 2 years old. And this has been in a backup ankle kit. So we have our kicker ankle kit, and I've been wearing a couple different versions of this. One of these has been my primary ankle kit that I have used on a regular basis, and when I'm not carrying it, I'm carrying one of the backup ones. One of my backup ankle kits I just used to move equipment around to see how different equipment rode, what was more comfortable, what was more slim with different configurations, and just a little bit more testing with our product. But this has been in one of the backup kits. So primarily it's been either in a bag in my car or it goes inside. I've worn it a little bit. That's why it's folded down on the side so it can fit in that ankle kit. But it hasn't been exposed to a lot of extreme temperatures like the one that's been sitting primarily in the car the entire time. But it has sat out in the hot sun for a while, come inside, and it's just kind of gotten moved around. And the last one we're going to do is actually out of my primary ankle kit. So I have a kicker ankle kit that is one of the ones that we produce and sell on our website. And I have a twin pack of Hyfin vintage chest seals. So you can see these things are a little bit discolored. They've definitely been folded up on the edges and crammed down in the ankle kit. And these are also 2 years old. So the date on them is also December 9th of 2020. Real quick, before we head outside to test these seals out, if you find anything in this video helpful, if you would leave us a like, that would really help us out. If you have any questions over any of the stuff we're going over today, or you have any ideas for future tests that we can run on these chest seals or any other of the equipment that we sell, let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and we might be able to put that in a video later. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button and make sure your notifications are on so you get an alert whenever we post future content. All right. Well, let's head outside and get some of these applied to the mannequin here and see how they perform. All right, so first off, let's take a brand new one that's been inside. We pulled this out of some that we had on the shelf. So this should be unused, unfolded. It is creased once to go inside the packaging, but it hasn't been crammed inside a first aid kit. So let's get this opened up. Oop. Looks good. Plop it on here, press it down. We would put the center of this directly over the area of injury, and it applies nicely. Let's see how it peels off. All right. Really sticky, holds on there really well. Again, keep in mind this is not actually skin, so it's going to adhere to skin a little bit differently, but very sticky nonetheless. All right, let's get this cleaned up and we will go with the next one. All right, so this first one stuck well. It's cleaned off. There's no more sticky or residual from the previous one, so let's go with this next one. This next one is the one that is a year and a half old, 5/27 of 21. And has been inside a hot vehicle for one season. Open it up, looks the exact same as the brand new one. No issues there. pulls right off. Put this on our wound. Slap it on. Seems to do fine. So at least 1 year in a hot summer plus winter. And it is currently about 45 degrees outside where we are right now too. And it's sticking just fine. And it's making a huge mess to get off. All right, it came off a little bit easier than the other one, so I don't know if that's any indication of the sticky, but I think it stuck just fine. I wouldn't have any issues using this. All right, next up is one that has been sitting inside in training supplies, 2 years old. I'm not expecting to have any issues out of this one either. Open it up, pull the 4x4 out. Looks good to go. Again, I'm not sure why this tab is perforated, but it creates a little bit of an issue when you go just to yank it off. Comes right off, peels nicely, slap it on, sticks well. So that one actually held together a lot better. Put it on one more time. That one came off a lot easier. Didn't seem to adhere as well. I think it would still do fine. I don't know how that pertains to it necessarily being wet, but we will try it out with a wet dummy in a little bit. All right, on to the next one. So here, I've got one from December 9, 2020. This is one that was in my backup ankle kit, and it sat in the car for some of this past summer, but it's kind of been all over the place. Peel it off, stick it on, nice and sticky. Just like the other one that was 2 years old, it pulled off, didn't leave any residue, didn't seem quite as sticky as some of the previous ones, but I think it would do the trick just fine. All right, now the ones that I've been carrying with me almost every single day for the last 2 years. These have been in my ankle kit, and they have sat in the car a decent amount, not an extended month or two or whole summer, but from time to time when I'm wearing other ankle kits or wearing shorts and I have stuff in my pockets, I will leave these in my glove box in my truck. So they have been exposed to some heat, but they've also been wadded up inside of an ankle kit wrapped around my ankle for a while. So let's see how these look. All right, so it looks a little more discolored than some of the other ones. Ooh, I went to peel it and it actually peeled off the plastic rather than opening up. All right, get it out, get this off, open it up. Peels fine, no issues. Slap this on. And it seems just as sticky, if not stickier than the other ones that we had. It left more residue than the previous ones that we pulled off from the same time period. I think it's all basically the same. I don't think there's any significant findings here. So after having this on my ankle for a couple years, it's sitting in the hot car from time to time, even the one that stayed nonstop in the vehicle for the last year, no issues between them. I think they all stick just fine. So let's mix this up just a little bit. It's not freezing cold outside, but it's cooler, and these are sticking fine. I've got one that I've got in a oven right now. It's at 120 degrees. We're gonna pull that one out and apply it immediately and see if there's any difference after it's been sitting in a car. So simulating that it's 100 degrees outside, the car's even hotter than that. Let's say it's 120, we pull that out, stick it on there. Let's see if that changes anything. Second, we are going to wet this dummy a little bit and see how well these stick with some water applied as well. All right, so now we've got another one that's 2 years old from December 9th, 2020, and we just pulled this out of a smoker that was 126 degrees at the time we pulled it out. It's been sitting in there for the last 30 minutes, so let's see if temperature affects this at all. Oh, there's that perforation again. Sticks just fine, still warm. And appears to stick just as well as the other. So sticking quite well. Of the ones that were 2 years old, that actually seemed to stick the best. So maybe the heat softened it a little bit more than the stuff that's been sitting out here in the 45-degree weather. Either way, any of these from a year, 2 years old, whether they've been stuck inside the car for a couple summers, I think any of these would be fine to use. So last test, let's throw some water on here and see how well it sticks while the dummy's wet. All right, last test here. We're gonna pour some water on this mannequin here. Get a nice layer on there and see how well this sticks. All right, so this with no drying, just dropped it on the mannequin, pushing it on there. Now it appears to be sticking, and I think this one-way valve would work to allow air to escape. I mean, it's sticking fairly well, enough for me to pick the mannequin up by it. So it's not perfect. I would still like to dry that with that 4x4 beforehand, but slapping it on completely wet, it's still enough to hold the mannequin by. So that's still pretty sticky. So let's do a quick swipe with the 4x4 and see if that changes things. All right, so this is the other one that was in my ankle kit, roughly 2 years old. Open this up. Dummy is still very wet. It's wettest down here, so I'm going to use the 4x4, clean it just a little bit. Take this, apply it to it, slap it on there, dirt and all. And very well stuck. Still not as well as when it was completely dry, but enough to do the job. That was quite secure on there. So I wouldn't have any issues using any of these. And good to know that even though it's still wet and there's a lot of moisture there, it still adheres well and will still provide an occlusive dressing. Much better than some duct tape and plastic. Well, we tested the Hyfin chest seals, and to be honest, I didn't know what we would find with some of these seals that have been sitting in kits for a couple years, sitting in the car for a couple years. I was actually pretty impressed with the results that we got from this test. Now, I understand there's nothing scientific about this test. We're just slapping some of these on a mannequin. Using these on a patient that has blood is different than using water, but we did a little bit of testing with a little bit different than just completely normal scenarios, and they all passed the test with flying colors. I could tell that the ones that were a little bit older seemed to peel easier. They did not adhere quite as well as the brand new ones. The brand new ones were almost impossible to get pulled off that dummy, whereas the older ones peeled fairly easily. They still stuck really well, much better than any form of duct tape would or anything else. So definitely worthwhile. After you have them in a kit in the car for a couple years, I wouldn't be worried about it. I would swap them after the expiration date of 5 years, especially if they've been sitting in a car for that extended amount of time. Unfortunately, I didn't have any chest seals that were past the expiration date. I've already swapped those out. I remember I had some recently. I couldn't find any for this video. That must be because I already swapped them out and used them in a class somewhere, so those are gone. But if you have some that are several years old, I wouldn't hesitate at all to keep those in your kit and keep running with them. Well, I hope you found the information here helpful. Hopefully that will give you a little bit more confidence in some of the chest seals that you have in your kit. And as always, stay vigilant and stay safe.